So if you say, what does digital transformation mean to you? Well, it's not the same as if I was in the magazine business or the newspaper business or any of those things, where some of that content, physical content, has actually been replaced by digital files. Like, I don't think seatbelts are not going to be replaced by digital seatbelts. That's not happening. So it doesn't mean that. And when you talk about, you're going to have all this data, you're going to collect all this data and help you be more competitive, I think you really have to understand, like, well, what are the new technologies that are going to enable me to collect data better than what I do today? Because if you come to a business and you say, well, you guys need to collect data, we collect tons of data. And typically in a lot of businesses, the amount of data isn't the problem. There's probably too much. There's probably more than people use. It's, are you collecting the right stuff? So there's all these new technologies out there that say, well, you can collect this data, or you can collect that data. Do I need to? Like, is that important? That's what we have to understand. And you talk about Industry 4.0, and I refer to the Klaus Schwab book about the fourth industrial revolution, and he sums it up pretty good. He says it's all about being able to use these new technologies to match supply and demand in a very accessible or low cost way. So, and reduce transaction costs, eliminate waste in the supply chain, and use big data and analytics. So on those points, I think the opportunities for businesses like us is kind of that sort of transaction cost in the planning. So you have a lot of people who are analysts in clerical positions. Maybe the newer technologies are able to do some of that stuff faster with less hands touching it. But still, say working with Toyota, we understand what our demand is pretty well. They're one of the most level auto companies in the business. So when they say this is what our demand is, it's going to be spread over this many days, you can pretty much count on it. So match your capacity to do that, and do any of these tools help? And a lot of it is about, I'm going to put sensors on all my machines. I'm going to get all this data, and I'm going to have it all go to a platform through smartphones, and all these people with smartphones are going to be able to see it. Well, so what? I mean, is that going to help our firm make better decisions? So when you get into the big data and the analytics part of it, it should be about improving our decision making, because you want to try to make the best decisions. You want to make decisions with perfect information if you can. Does all this data collection, does it help improve the quality of my information? It has to be reliable. I'm a skeptic. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when personal computers didn't exist. Certainly smartphones didn't exist. And when I was in elementary school, calculators were rare and new. So when the problem is, when all this stuff is new, the reliability has to be there, especially in auto or in healthcare. In a nutshell, I think it's all about a promise of data. We're going to harness it because memory is cheap, and we're going to get all this data, and we're going to make these algorithms and artificial intelligence, and it's going to make you more productive, because now you don't need all these people who do this stuff today. No, that's the upside. That's the 100% upside. But there's a lot of other things that need to be looked at as well. I think the Industry X approach, we talk about getting opportunities for us, vigorous or rigorous optimization to help us understand if our buffer choices are optimal as cost factors change. So the factory physics, you got basically three buffers. You got inventory, capacity, and time.
Yes.
And those things, you choose those things in the best cost package possible, because you've got variation in any sort of demand transformation system. There's variation on the demand side, on the transformation side. So you got buffers in place to mitigate that. Now, those buffers cost money. And the idea of that is, if you have excess of those things, it's a waste in a lean system, right? You only want exactly what you need. So, our choices, the decisions we make around how much inventory to keep or how much capacity should we have, those are choices we make based on the data that we collect, based on the knowledge that we have. Industry 4.0, do these technologies hold out the promise of us being able to optimize those choices? Maybe, because you don't want to have too much inventory, you don't want to have too much capacity, but you don't want to have not enough either to be able to respond. And those things typically aren't instantaneous. I mean, I can't, if I make the decision today, I'm going to get more capacity, it's going to take me 4 months to put it in place.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I can do the analysis really quickly, there's a 4-month lead time associated with that. Well, once you understand it, I mean, anybody's always going to be, I use the phrase, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze?
Mm-hmm.
Is the benefit going to outweigh the cost? Because all this stuff isn't free. I mean, you got to make an investment in it, and then your workforce has to be able to keep up with it and feed it and keep it going. And when you look at the pace of technology, I mean, nobody wants to be the guy that buys the beta system, when the world moves to something else.
What do you think is like the most feasible like application for Industry 4.0?
Working with Industry X is basically, like I said, trying to develop a planning piece
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do some analysis maybe faster than what we do today, to help us decide whether our buffer choices, inventory capacity, are optimal.
Okay.
I mean, we do it today, and we get along today. But are there things out there, technologies available that will make this like easier and more accurate?
Okay.
And that's the kind of the piece we're working on. And I think a lot of industries like us probably have that opportunity. But Industry X's approach, I think, is pretty good, because they come at you and they say, we're going to focus on operational effectiveness. We're not going to focus on any specific technology. We're just going to say, how can we help you with operational effectiveness? So, I mean, we're doing things today, we measure things today, we collect data today, but how do we collect it? Is there pieces that we could be collecting that we need that would help us that we aren't? And we have KPIs today that we measure our success or our progress. So I think that approach is good for companies like us, as opposed to saying, oh, hey, we got this great technology, you need to do this or you're going to be non-competitive.
Yeah, it's more nuanced. It's not just like throw all the new tech in there, see what we can do.
Right.
It's more like, all right, let's try to figure out how we can improve our business.
Right. Try to understand your situation, where you're trying to go, and say, oh, okay, here's how we think we can help you get there.
Yeah.